Hey you guys, this is our promo before our main show. I wanted to make you aware that we have an amazing YouTube channel which features some of the great behind the scenes footage from our main podcast, as well as some amazing other new content as well that we've got coming up as well with some of our speakers, some of our amazing, I suppose, influencers and also sports personalities and Olympic athletes from around the world. It's great because you can sit down with a pen and paper. If you're extremely busy, you can make some golden nuggets just from a video. And you know what? It's great to connect with someone and see someone face to face by watching the YouTube channel. So listen, guys, go to youtube.com/Adam Strong. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube. In fact, do me a favor, pause this audio right now, go straight to the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us and we'll see you there. Take care. Bye.
This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers Experience Power Up Thursdays episode. Really excited about today because actually I wanted to talk about a subject or a particular topic which I wouldn't say it bugs me, but I think it's probably one of what I call the biggest currencies in growing any business. It doesn't matter if you're a small business, a startup company, or you're a large organization, the fundamentals don't change. So what we're going to be actually talking about today is trust. And is trust overrated? So there's, during these, should we say, challenging times during the pandemic, okay, prior to the pandemic, my opinion is essentially that trust really wasn't that important. It wasn't seen as important as it is now because most of us are working from home. Most of us are communicating digitally. Most of us is consuming content like you're listening to this podcast, for example. And what the pandemic has really done is it has actually exposed a massive gap between what business leaders do and entrepreneurs do and what they actually say, right? So what they say and what they do is completely different things. There's a massive gap between the real two. But what does trust really do? Well, trust actually positions you in terms of credibility because trust is a bit like the glue. And let me give you an example. All of us, or most of us, should have a mission statement, a vision, some values, some goals, some aspirations, a business plan maybe, or a strategy about how to grow your business, essentially. Now, all of that is all really, really great, okay? But what actually sticks this all together is the glue, and the glue is trust. So what does trust do? Well, trust actually accelerates speed and efficiency. And I'll tell you what that actually looks like, because trust is, especially if you're running a business, trust can be looked at two different aspects, okay? Trust between your team or your staff, that's number one, but also trust in your clients and your customers or the people that you're trying to communicate to, all right? So trust comes in, in two different ways. There's a two different way, shape or form or whatever it is. So one of the things that has become really apparent to me, especially in larger organizations, is that, your CEO or your boss or whatever it might be, okay, because they're so used to people coming into the office and getting on with their work, essentially, all right? It's kind of that element of, I don't trust you working from home. That's why they're encouraging you to come back into the office type of thing. And this is where the fine line between trust and balance really comes in, is that do you trust your employees or your team, essentially, to be able to get on with what they need to be getting on with, okay? And one way to really get around this, all right, is that if you are a business leader or an entrepreneur running a company, okay, and you have employees, and even if you have a small, should we say, I suppose, a small team in terms of like maybe in different countries or different contractors or whatever it might be, okay, is that when you share your plan or when you share, I suppose, not just your plan, but when you share your information with regards to where the company is, where your business is, and that stuff, people feel more safe and secure. All right. They're not worried. They don't have fear or anything like that. And, they are then able to then take risks as well. So when they feel empowered, when your team feels empowered, for example, okay, they're more than likely to really, I suppose, not only take risks, but also to take those larger steps. All right. If they feel empowered, they feel like they're in more control, and they have more of an open relationship between yourself and themselves. It's so important to build trust in these times, because especially if you're running a slightly larger organization, a larger business or whatever it is. In fact, it doesn't really matter, is that, if you're being employed or if you have a part-time job or whatever it is, okay, if there is this element of trust that's actually missing, all right, then if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, safety and security is one of those top levels. Those are the ones which you basically need in order to encourage motivation, to encourage intrinsic motivation. And you can only do that by creating this trust element. So also with regards to, I'm going to give you actually some good pointers here about how you can actually build trust in your business, because to me, and I'm going to give you some really good examples actually, because I think what I'm seeing right now is, especially in my industry and in my and even with my connections and whatever it is, there's some really great examples of how people are actually building trust. And I want to really kind of take the time with you about how you can essentially grow your business by essentially building trust with your audience, okay, with your audience, but also with your employees, being able to attract certain staff and so forth. But, trust takes time, ladies and gents. It takes time. And the thing is that trust can also be destroyed in a split second. And let me give you some examples of this. So, and a really good example of this is that if you look at Volkswagen, for example. Now, Volkswagen, obviously reputable company and whatever it is, but when there was the diesel scandal, okay, what did that do to people's trust? What did that do to people's confidence in the brand itself? Well, it went down. Confidence levels went down because they had a lot of people suing Volkswagen because of the emissions, for example, and so many people knew about it. Another example is if we look at Facebook, for example, and the data protection, that was exposed, and there was a third-party company involved. And I think it was called Cambridge something. I can't remember exactly, but they breached data protection laws. What did that do to Facebook's trust and credibility? Well, it comes down at the end of the day, all right? And there's many other different examples. There's banks, for example. There's airlines. There's hotels where maybe they've lost data, really sensitive data, and then it's got into the wrong hands of the wrong people. And this really reduces people's trust in the brand, trust in the product, trust in the service, and so forth. And then it can take years, absolutely years, to be able to then regain that trust back with the consumers, with clients, with customers, and whatever it is. You guys that are listening in, it's exactly the same. It takes years to build trust between you and your clients and your potential ideal markets, for example. All right. What was I going to say? So I'm going to give you some tips and some examples about how you can essentially build more trust. Okay, so the first one is that you've got to confront reality. And what do I mean by confront reality? So what I mean by that is that if you have a team and you employ people, or even if you have a remote working team, which could be in different countries or whatever it is, and you're going through some hardships right now, okay? And you're thinking to yourself, oh, going through some hardships right now, this firm is struggling financially, or your organization or your business is struggling financially, then one of the things that you've got to do is you've got to confront reality, okay? And what do I mean by confront reality? Well, rather than kind of bottling it up and keeping it on your chest and worrying about it and having sleepless nights, where some of you guys that are listening right now have been doing so, then you've got to go to those people and be completely 100% open to them. You've got to be open with them, because if they're not open, then think about what's going through their mind. If they, and that's what builds this trust. That's what builds this, because they may have new ideas. They may have, they want to support you in terms of being able to survive the pandemic or whatever it is that you're going through. And there's massive examples of this. Secondly is create transparency. And one of my key values as a person is transparency. You've got to be crystal clear in your directions. Don't hide bad news away from people. All right. It's really important, especially if you have staff or whatever it might be. You've got to be, you've got to have this openness, dialogue between you and your staff, because, people are one of the most fundamentals. They are probably the most important. They're the most important asset in terms of your business. So if you're not open and transparent with them, then guess what? Your business is going to go down the toilet, essentially, right? So it's really, really important. You got to talk straight, just talk straight, be open, be honest, show integrity, right? And, and I love the fact that, a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses are going through real tough times at the moment, right? Some of you guys that are listening right now are probably in the same, the same places as you were maybe at sort of 3 or 6 months ago. But you've got to have those open and honest conversations with people and not hide behind the curtains. Really, really important. The other way to build trust actually is to actually build visibility. And one way to do that is to get onto social media. You'll see me on social media, on multiple different channels, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Facebook, on Twitter, or whatever it is. But the more visible that you are out there, the more credibility that you're building. You're building conversations with people. You're building brand awareness. And you're trying to build a relationship between you and your clients and your customers or your niches or whatever it might be. But you've got to get yourselves out on social media, guys. If you're twiddling with your thumbs and you're thinking, oh, how am I going to grow my business? How am I going to grow my business? Well, you've got to build that visibility. And again, credibility. People don't buy products. They don't buy services. Okay. They buy trust. They buy you as a person. But that only comes over a period of time. Okay, so if you're publishing articles on a weekly basis or twice weekly basis, and you're being consistent in that, and this is the key, right? If you want to build trust and you want to build exposure and visibility, you have to be consistent in your times. You have to be disciplined. Example, with this particular podcast as an example, right? We go out every Tuesdays and Thursdays. There is no compromise in that. My team know exactly when the deadlines are. They know exactly what happens at what, just to make sure that we're consistent in our content and stuff like that, right? It's the same with you guys. And I see so many people that have launched a podcast or maybe a YouTube channel or written loads of different articles, but they give up too earlier on in the game. They might give it 4 or 6 weeks, then they think to themselves, oh, do you know what? I'm not getting any likes, comments, shares, loves, or anything like that. Okay. And they give up too easily. And then they say, and then they complain and they say, hey, so it doesn't work. Right. But the thing is, you've got to be consistent, in delivering content or whatever is your message is that is out to the world. So you've got to build that visibility. You've got to expose yourself out there, right? So important. Next one, under promise and over deliver, right? And here's some great examples here, okay? Because, for example, we did the summit, which you guys will know because I keep going on about it. It's a great example to use. We look at the Game Changers Summit, right? We blew up the marketing on it. We had some amazing speakers and whatever it is. But literally, we went above and beyond what was expected of a lot of people. And people were so blown away by the fact that we gave it all away. and it was a wow factor it was game changing for a lot of people. I love using that word, by the way. It was, and it just blew people's minds away. So it doesn't matter if you've created a product, you've got a service, or you've got a methodology or a program, whatever it is, okay, a speech, public speaking, podcast interview, whatever it is, under promise and always over deliver. Always go that extra mile. How are you going the extra mile? How are you creating that wow factor? Because, people love that. And the thing is that when you create that, that kind of wow factor for people, then this is where you're going to start getting these organic, natural introductions from other people, right? Saying you need to go to Joe, you need to go and see David, you need to go and see Samantha or whatever it might be, okay? Because this is what they did for me, and I didn't expect it at all, right? And here's the great thing about it is that they never expected it, but they will rave about you forever and a day, so important. Number 6 is making your brand personal, right? And a really good example of this is Gary Vaynerchuk is someone that I truly admire, and I really follow him and his podcast and that kind of stuff. And he was really good at making his brand more personal even before, I suppose, the pandemic. But he's a great example of building not only his personal brand because of a CEO of VaynerMedia and things like that, but if you make things more personal, right? Okay, they can see that there's a human being behind all of that kind of stuff, as I like to call it, out there. People like to see people's faces. They like to have conversations. They like to have engagement. All right. And it's so important to be able to, at the moment, a lot of people, and I've had so many great opportunities this year, the fact that you would have seen, some of you may or may not see me on the front cover of Influential People magazine, for example. I can't remember how many hundreds of podcast interviews I've done in the last sort of 12 months. It's been absolutely insane. But making you and your brand and your company more personal, right? They like to see who is behind the game, right? They like to see who's the Einstein behind the game. Number 7, communicate more. Really super important, okay? You've got to effectively get yourself out there, okay? Move away from the whole kind of email scenario stuff, because the problem with email is, number 1, is we get too many of them, okay? And number 2, it's not personal, all right? But if you're out, creating video, creating podcasts, even writing articles, okay, that resonates with your key target clients and your market. Essentially, if you communicate more, again, it puts you in a position in it, and a lot of you build up this influential factor, if you like. You build up that brand, you build up that trust and credibility again. And the last one, which I think, again, this is so important, especially as most of us are working from home, is always be available to people. I mean, not to the fact that, that you ignore people, all right, because then that's just being rude, but always be available to people, right? And there's so many great platforms that you can leverage in terms of system-wise that can help you can make you available. So for example, with me, I'm always available through social media, right? People can communicate to me, send me a message or whatever it is, and I will try to respond in due kind, okay? So always be available to people, because if you're available to people, it means that you come from a place of, I'm serving you, I am helping you, and again, that builds trust and credibility. So I think it's really, really important to do that, in this day and age. So I hope that's kind of giving you some great tips and some great insights about how I'm building my own trust with you guys that are listening in, not just by delivering great podcasts, but by delivering great content to you. And I think with everybody that's listening in right now, trust is probably the biggest currency right now in today's market. And it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything to build trust with people. Yes, it's the long game. You've got to build it over the long game. You can't build trust just by the click of a fingers or whatever it is. It's the same with, partnerships and working with influencers and senior experts in your field or authorities or whatever it is. It takes time to nurture trust. It really does. Trust does take a lot of time, but it's worth it. It is worth it. That's all I'm going to say to you guys. So listen, I hope that you have enjoyed today's Power Up Thursdays episode. Do me a favor, if you are liking some of the episodes that I'm doing off the back of this, please do me a favor. I have a question for you. What are you doing to build trust in your own businesses and organizations, and how important is it? So answer those two questions for me. Please make sure that you add a comment to either this podcast. So you can make a comment on social media, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. YouTube's actually a really good one because we're actually got a great YouTube channel that we'll be building really, really shortly. Because the more that we work together, right? The more that we work together, the better it is, right? And the other thing as well, and I think this is really, really important, okay? And when I mentioned about the kind of whole openness stuff, being open with people and things like that, if you're going through financial hardships or whatever it is, right? Listen, do me a favor. It's okay, because if you tell people about that, then guess what? They're going to want to help you, all right? Now, maybe back before the pandemic, for example, your thought patterns was, well, if I tell them, then guess what? They're not going to do business with me because I'm a nobody, right? But the reality is that we are in the new world, ladies and gents. This is how we are going to be for quite some time, ahead. So, I think from my perspective, and I'm being as open and transparent as I can, this is what works for me, guys. This is what works for me, but it's up to you whether you choose to, use the tips and the insights that I give you or not. It's entirely up to you. So listen, guys, I love to do these shows with you, and look forward to connecting with you, of course. Make sure that you use the social media links below, and we'll see you again on the next Game Changers Power Up Thursdays. Take care. Have a fantastic day. See you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening in to this episode of the Game Changers Experience. I hope that you got some amazing value, some great insights, and golden nuggets that you can implement into your business straight away. I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review on the button below. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.